Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter, and welcome to Knife AQ number 45, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. This week, we're talking about slicey knives for big guys. We're talking about knives that are going to be equally at home in the city as they are out in the woods, as well as the proper way to use some lanyards on your knives. Sound boring? I don't think so. We're going to get into it right now. Let's do it. All right, thank you everyone for the questions you have submitted to this series. I have a lot of fun every week. I really do, going through and picking out some stuff to potentially feature. If you want a chance to get one of your questions featured in a future episode, just drop them in the comments section below. So this week, first question comes from Flaky Croissant. He says, hey David, what do you think is the best EDC slicer knife for people with bigger hands? Well, one that always that kind of comes immediately to mind for me is this, the SOG Aegis AT. This particular version, right now at least, is on sale for about 70 bucks with this this orange handle here, which right now is a KnifeCenter exclusive, which is pretty cool. But what's nice about this is, you mentioned larger hands. You do have a nice big handle on this guy. You've got glass-filled nylon scales on the side and plenty of length. Now, when I first saw this knife, I was a little bit skeptical about this little lanyard hoop here at the back, thinking, it's just gonna get in the way, right? Well, I do have slightly larger than average hands, and honestly, I don't even hit that at all, and I still get a full fat grip on that knife. And even if you did have a bigger hand, like if I'm choking back onto that, it's not too bad, honestly. So don't let that worry you. If you're looking for that wide contact patch, that wide big handle, definitely got it here. And the blade, fairly thin, about 3 1/3 inch, or sorry, not quite that long, just under 3 1/4 inches long, full flat grind with that wide profile. You've got a nice steep cutting geometry on this guy that's not too thick. You're gonna be able to breeze through some stuff pretty nicely, I think. Now the Aegis, of course, has been in SOG's lineup for a long time in various forms. This is the newest format, essentially, the AT version, which changes the proportions just a little bit, and it gives you an assisted opening mechanism on their XR crossbar lock here. So you get ambidextrous capability, you get a spine-mounted safety to keep it closed if you need it to do that, and then you've got excellent assisted opening action as well. Pretty cool knife. All right, next question comes from Stay Woke. It says, question, why do you keep pronouncing SOG as SOG? Old habits die hard, perhaps? No, let's take the question seriously here for a second. So SOG has been around, sorry, whatever you want to call them, we'll come to that. But the company's been around for a while, and I think in the last few years especially, they've seen some new leadership, and I think they're doing a phenomenal job of updating some of their classic designs and coming out with some new designs and new mechanisms like the XR lock they've got here. And they're putting out a fantastic product. But they've been sort of pushing an SOG as the name of the company, or Studies and Observations Group, which is what SOG has traditionally stood for, or SOG. Like I've tried to ask them this a couple times, and I've never quite felt like I've got the straightest answer in the world. No matter. So I'll grab this guy right here to show you, which is going to come into play in just a little bit. But there's a bit of a history with the pronunciation of SOG. I mean, the original knife that kind of inspired the formation of this knife company, which was early 90s, but the knife that inspired it was from the Vietnam era, and it was the Mac V SOG knife, or the Mac V SOG Bowie. That's what it's always been pronounced. I've never heard anyone call it the Mac V SOG knife or anything like that. So that's kind of ingrained in the fabric of like the knife community. On top of that, you've still got videos on their website right now, on their About Us section, referring to themselves as SOG. It's a little bit of an older video, but it's still front and center on their website, even though in other places they're calling themselves SOG. Another place where I find the SOG to be a little clumsy for me is this particular knife right here, which is the SOG-TAC XR. You're gonna say that, is that the SOG TAC or SOG TAC? It's the SOG-TAC. So it's hard to get away from that pronunciation, and I don't mean to offend the folks over there at the company at all. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Like I said, I like them on a personal level as well, and I like the knives they're putting out. So no disrespect whatsoever, but I'll try. I mean, I've tried before to move to SOG, but I do just keep coming back to SOG. That's why. That answers the question.
And these knives, by any other name, are still pretty good.
And they are pretty good. I like this knife a lot, actually, the SOG Tac especially. I mean, shoot, it's like $80, D2, you've got the XR lock, nice meaty handle. This would be a pretty good slicer for questioner number 1 as well. We've still got a nice thin blade there with that full flat grind in this case, and a nice swedge as well. Not quite as much real estate on the handle, but you can see there, I've still got a pretty nice grip on it nonetheless. All right, next question comes from Ralph Latorre. Being a complete novice when it comes to knives, can you recommend an EDC knife that's smaller than my Buck 110 LT, but is good for everyday use in the woods as well as an urban environment? Price range around the $100 mark. Thank you. Absolutely. So the immediate thought is, if you like your Buck 110, but it's a little too large, there's always the Buck 112, which is the Ranger, which is a little bit smaller. And you've got some, upgraded versions. I think standard versions are sub $50. I want to say like 45, somewhere around there. This particular one right here, the 112 Ranger Pro, is right under $100, and you've got S30V blade steel, which is quite nice. Nice bump up from the 420 HC that your 110 LT has. However, the 110 LT is a nylon handled version of the knife, so it's a lot more lightweight. And this guy, the 112 Pro, packs the ounces back on. You do have a nice meaty grip though. So this will offer kind of the same amount of grip, but it is going to be heavier, a bit heavier weight. And if you're talking about an urban environment, there's no pocket clip here. Instead, you get a belt sheath. Belt sheath itself might not be preferable for that urban environment. So good knife, but not my recommendation in this case. I'll kind of walk you through to it. Now there are slim Pro versions of the Ranger. 3-inch blade on all these guys. This also has S30V. You've got Micarta or G10, nice and slim in this case, with a deep carry pocket clip. Kind of wide, not a particularly discreet clip, but it's certainly going to be more discreet than a knife on your belt walking around town. Now, the question remains, is this going to be too thin for you if you like the thicker feel of the 110 LT? I don't know. If that doesn't bother you, great knife right here. Definitely going to do the job very nicely. But if you want a little more of that chunkier feel, this knife is on my mind because we did a video on this earlier this week. This is the We Knives Banter. Comes in about 108 right now, 108, 109. And a lot of good things going on here for an urban knife. You've got a sub 3-inch blade, S35 VN, nice versatile blade shape. And the handles, a little bit on the thicker side, so you do get a fairly meaty grip. Even on a larger handed individual like myself, I can get a nice solid hold on this knife, and you've got a deep carry pocket clip to keep it nice and subtle when you're not using it. Furthermore, the blue color on this works great in both scenarios too. It's going to be a nice inoffensive color in an urban environment, and it's going to be a highly visible color in an outdoor environment. So if you happen to set your knife down somewhere, you might be able to see it a little better than a black handled knife. All right, now I've got one more suggestion for you. If you're willing to stretch your budget just a little bit more, I've got what I think is, in my mind, just about perfect, but it's definitely one of my favorite recommendations for this type of scenario right now, and that is the Benchmade Mini Presidio 2. And these come in about $127.50 right now. With this, you've got a nice lightweight knife that's easy to carry. It's just over 3 ounces for the whole thing, but it still gives you a thick enough and hand-filling grip. It's not super slim, so you can put it into some of the like wood carving stuff you might be doing outdoors, but it's not so chunky it's going to be unwieldy in your pocket or bumming around town. You've still got a nice deep carry pocket clip, so it's going to be nice and subtle, and you've got a CF Elite handle material here, which is pretty cool stuff. It's got kind of a graphite-like tone to it. It's a carbon fiber reinforced nylon, so it's stronger and lighter than a typical GFN. And underneath that, you got full-length skeletonized liner, so you got a lot of backbone behind it as well. And then the blade shape, 3.2 inches, S30V steel, excellent all-around blade shape. And I love the axis lock on these guys. Completely ambidextrous. You can do that flick open and closed thing quite nicely, even though this one needs a little bit of breaking in out of the box. Sometimes that's the case. It just works really well. I think the only reason that I personally would go for the banter over this is, if price was a concern obviously, but if you needed that 3-inch length in your particular city due to like ordinances or whatever, that would definitely sway me. But this guy right here, I think, would be a phenomenal choice. All right, next question comes from Bert Gambini. Says, hey David, please explain the logic behind lanyard holds for both fixed blades and folders. They seem to compromise a knife's aesthetics and ergonomics without offering enough benefit in return. Why do most knives possess a design element that seems better omitted? Sure thing. First off, you mentioned ergonomics, and I can't really think of anything I've personally held, at least not that I can remember, where I felt like the lanyard hole has kind of thrown off the ergos of a knife. But you know, that's me and my hands. You could certainly have a different experience, which is perfectly valid. But I won't get into that. But as for utility on fixed blades and folders of a lanyard, there are kind of several reasons that you might want to have one. First thing I'll pick up is a knife that very famously comes with a small lanyard installed, and that's the Chris Reeve Sebenza. Now, obviously, they don't actually have a lanyard hole on these knives. They give you a small post where the lanyard's going to wrap around, but extraction, whether from your pocket or from like a very deep or tight-fitting sheath, is an area where a lanyard is going to come in very handy. This is one I personally carry right here, and I'll find myself, when I go in to grab it, my index finger and thumb will be kind of placed near the back, but I'm actually grabbing on with my back couple of fingers, get a really solid pull, especially on a knife like this where you have a 2-stage pocket clip, kind of 2 retention points. It's pretty easy. Honestly, I've had Sebenzas before that I've cut these off or have been cut off when I traded into them. And so it wasn't until recently I started carrying one with the lanyard, and I've actually kind of grown to like it, which surprised me. I thought I was going to wind up cutting this guy off. So that's number one, extraction. Again, from the pocket. Sometimes, especially in some of the bushcraft spheres, you'll have a sheath that sits really low or might have a really tight fit. Even a short little lanyard like this is going to be able to aid you in pulling that out. Next benefit of a lanyard is going to be actually extending the grip of a knife or extending the handle. And there's probably no more iconic way to demonstrate this than the CRKT Minimalist series. This is the new Persian blade style with an upgraded blade steel over the old 5CR versions. This is a full-on 8CR compared to the other guys. But even without the lanyard, this is a pretty grippy knife because you've got 3 prominent finger guards, but that lanyard there out the back gives your pinky just a little bit more to hold on to so that you have essentially a full 4-fingered grip on this knife. And especially if you were to do some other kind of lanyard, like do your own, that has a nice big aggressive knot here at the back, it's actually going to provide you another stop, another essentially finger groove on that, rather than just the kind of box braid, I think that's what it's called here, that they give you. So that's another thing that it can come in handy for. And that's not just handy on small knives either. That can come in handy on larger knives, like my fellow Knieven S1 here. And this lanyard demonstrates 2 things that a lanyard is good for. One is that handle extension. The other is also retention and grip. So the way I've got this particular guy tied right here, you can see I have a small knot here closer to the pommel, and then a knot further out back. Now, you can certainly extend your grip on the knotted section right there. And the reason you might want to do that, this is not exactly a choppy knife. It's only a 5-inch blade, but it does have a nice, strong convex grind going on. Do some light branches and stuff if you're like messing around camp. And what I'll actually do is combine the handle extension with some retention as well. I kind of thread my back 2 fingers through this little section right here. I've got it tied off perfectly for my hands. And then I can do some kind of snap cutty things with this blade, and I'm not that afraid of it slipping out of my hands, I've got 2 fingers on the handle itself, but I still have a 4-finger grip essentially on this knife. So the other thing I mentioned was retention. And for me, on a small fixed blade like this, what that looks like is wrapped around the back of my hand and around my thumb. This is for a situation where you want to make sure you have a tight hold on a knife. You don't want to drop it, especially if, let's say you're in or around water, definitely very important. But anywhere where you really want to make sure you've got a solid hold on the knife, if you were to somehow slip and drop this, this would come dangling down. Just make sure to pull your hand out away from your body. You don't want that swinging around super close to you. That's the way I like it on a small fixed blade. I don't like this lanyard style on a larger fixed blade. But further on the retention subject, stuff like this Condor Woodbuster that has a forward lanyard hole, the retention offered by that style of lanyard, you come down through the hole, down through the loop, I should say, and grab the handle. If you slip and drop this blade, it really isn't going anywhere. It's not going to swing around back on you, which I've had happen using that other style of lanyard before, which is why I don't like it. There you go. 4 different reasons why a lanyard might be a good thing. So a lot of folks don't use them. That's fine. But I'm glad they're there. But because a lot of folks don't use them, that's why you're starting to see more things like hidden lanyard attachment points, both on fixed blades and folders. So you can still get that utility without messing up kind of the aesthetics of a knife. Ergonomically, sure. Everybody's hands are different, that's for sure. But hope that helps. All right, next question comes from Dizzy Diggy Dabrig. Pardon me if this seems obvious, but shouldn't the D-Rocket Micro cost only half the price of the regular D-Rocket? Since it's half the knife, meaning half the materials, it's half the time to make, so why charge so much makes no sense. Sure, those are the two guys you're talking about right here, and there is some, on the face of it, you might think, oh, it's half the knife, it should cost half as much. Half the materials, materials are only part of the cost of any given knife. And even if you wanted to boil it down to just materials, yes, the handles are shorter, yes, the blade is shorter, but there's lots of materials on these that are exactly the same. It's still got 4 pivots that are the same parts. It's got 2, each one has its own latch, I should say. Exact same part, takes the exact same amount of time to create. Each one of these screws takes the same amount of time to screw in by the employee. You have to pay the person putting these together. All kinds of factors like that really add up, and materials, again, only part of it. You have to pay for building rent. If the manufacturer is renting their building space, you have to pay for the employees. And even though it's half the materials, it definitely doesn't take half the time to put one of these together. So without getting too in-depth into it, that's why you can't really equate size to the actual final price, at least on a complete one-to-one scale. All right, next up, we've actually got a David and Seth question. So let me go grab Seth V, our Instagram manager, social media manager, not just Instagram, I should say. Hey, Seth, you ready over there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do this.
It's time. Bring it on in. Seth V, everybody.
I'm back.
All right, you ready?
Absolutely.
Next question comes from Sam Lorzel, and I thought this would be a fun one for both of us to answer. If you had $50 and was only... We're only?
Don't ask me now.
If you had $50 and was only going to own one EDC, what would you buy? I like this one a lot. So we're going to do the same thing we did a couple weeks ago, where we each have a pick. We're each going to try to guess what the other person picked. And I like that he said EDC, because that means we can still have kitchen knives. And I'm going to say Swiss Army knives don't count. I can still have camping knives and all of those things. So it makes it a little easier since we're keeping it just to EDC.
A manageable scope of the question.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because one knife for life is it's tough, because it would always be like a kitchen knife that you could put on your belt,
I need several lives.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I think we're going to let you go first.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether I think you picked this knife or whether I want you to have picked this knife.
Okay.
But I'm going to say Spyderco Tenacious Lightweight.
Ooh, okay. The Spyderco Astute was on my list.
I do remember how much you like that knife now.
It's a good knife, but it didn't quite make the cut. And I'm going to... Well, this was a hard one.
Very.
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 Both because there are so many great knives under $50 these days.
Which is kind of incredible, honestly.
Yeah, and for people like you and I who own so many knives, it's hard to pick one. So if you'll permit me, let me walk you through my thought process here.
Please,
so
please.
I have 2 knives in my pocket. The first one...
It's good, because I brought 3.
The first one is the CJRB Rhea.
That'd have been a good choice.
I really like this knife. I know you really like this knife. Phenomenal value. I think these are like around $49 right now.
I think they start even at less than that, like $30 for the flat scaled ones, I think.
Fantastic.
Let's find out. We have the thing here. Please continue.
This one in particular has burgundy micarta. It's got the deep carry pocket clip. It's not super lefty friendly, but the action that you do get with this thumb stud is just, it really feels assisted. It springs away from your thumb. It's kind of crazy.
Plus, this is for you, and you're not a lefty, so
yeah,
for you it doesn't matter.
It was my choice. And yeah, the steel on this one in particular is RPM 9, which is a budget powder metallurgy steel. I mean, for under 50 bucks, you get so much here. The design too is just solid, comfortable, you know, simple, nothing to get in the way of holding it, and all different kinds of grips.
It's kind of a classic pocket knife profile, but it's not mimicking any classic pocket knives in a way.
Yeah, it's very original. But this knife...
And base $32 for a 12C27 stainless version with the contoured scales. The carbon fiber one's the only one that's flat. Still a good bargain there as well.
Just fantastic. I own one of these myself. I love to carry it. Slicey blade. But it's a little fiddly, I want to say, for like your one knife. It's got ball bearings in the pivot, which for me always, not always, but I've had them rust on me. I think these might be ceramic, which would help. Which would help. But just for me, ball bearings a little fiddly, liner lock, not always easy to get to, especially if you're wearing gloves or something. Or
yeah,
hands
this one
wet.
does have a very small cutout for something like that.
Yeah, as much as I love it, I don't think it's perfect for that one knife. So I went with the K-Bar Dozier
Wow.
D2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I respect that. that.
This actually is a fair amount under the $50 budget.
Yeah, also like $32, I think. Yeah.
And this, I love this knife. It's fully ambidextrous, even though the thumb stud's only on one side.
You can swap it.
You can swap it, yep. Back lock, totally ambidextrous. It is not the most fun knife to fidget with. Kind of a slow, you gotta push it open the whole way. You can flick them open when they break in, but not super fidget friendly. But D2 steel, great ergonomics. Back locks are very strong. It's kind of large enough to manipulate with gloves on, and you know, I would carry this every day. I would use it on the weekends for projects. I would clean it up, use it to kind of as a paring knife. I think this, for me, is my do-it-all. And with the budget we have left over...
Uh-oh. He's cheating now.
I'm going to add on a little Falkneven sharpening.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
If you have one knife, you got to keep it sharp.
You got to keep it sharp.
And this is great. This is like 16 bucks, so it still came in under 50 total. It's got diamonds, diamond abrasive on one side, ceramic on the other. Small enough to slip in a pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And with those diamonds, I mean, you can repair some serious damage if it comes to that.
And especially some folks find D2 a little bit harder to sharpen. Diamonds will cut through that really nicely.
Yeah.
Respect. I would never have guessed that for you. I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't pick the Astute now because I remember how much you love that knife.
It's really slicey.
It is a really good knife.
Yeah.
It is a really good knife. All right. Now my turn.
Your turn. Oh boy. So I was actually going to say that you picked the Rhea.
Okay.
Because you're a classy dude. It's a classy knife. Nice, portable. Allegedly.
Some say. Is that your final answer?
You know what? I know it's wrong, but yes, it is my final answer.
It is wrong. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to reveal my pick right away, too, because I had to walk through this as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because for me, the Tenacious Lightweight, it came down to 3 for me. The Tenacious Lightweight was one of them. And not because it's got the best materials in this price range, but it's got one of my favorite designs in the price range. Just the handle is so well thought out. The blade is nice and slicey. It's something that would work well in all kinds of scenarios. You could even do food prep with it.
Oh yeah.
You can do all your day-to-day slicing, breaking down mountains of cardboard, and taking it out in the woods. Does all of that really well. And the satin versions are like 45 bucks. So not too bad. And bronze washers in these as well, no bearings. So the longevity of that and the grit-free factor there is certainly a consideration. In the end, though, I did go with a ball bearing knife.
Okay.
I'll give you that clue. If you want to take another guess, I'll let you go.
Is it the CJRB Feldspar?
It is not.
Okay.
Okay. It came down to these two. And these two knives right here. We've got the Civivi Brazen drop point and the Badlands Vagabond. And this was a little tough, but in the end, I had to give it to the Badlands Vagabond because I like the design better. Again, I've said this before on here, steel only matters a certain amount. The design's gotta be where you like it. And if we're going by materials, the Brazen would take it. 14C, 28N, love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's got a nice high flat grind. I usually prefer flat grinds to hollow that you have here. But the handle, even though it's G10, which is considered nicer, the handle on the Badlands does it for me. And it's such a refined little shape. It's got an excellent small declination of angle of the blade here, the way it holds it down just a little bit. It closes up rather nice looking. And again, talking about all scenarios EDC, if I'm going camping, if I'm going outdoors, I can take a fixed blade.
Yeah.
This slightly smaller size to me is a little more appropriate for more scenarios than these slightly larger blades that we have right there. But yeah, you've got ball bearings in the pivot, 9CR stainless, so about 440C, still very respectable stuff. Great little design. The only thing I'd say I don't like about it is the pocket clip kind of sticks out a little bit, but that can be fixed.
Yeah.
That could kind of bend up. And this is $40 knife right here.
Yeah, this is a great choice. This was not on my radar, but I kind of wish it was.
It's a great little knife.
You can do so much with injection molded scales at the price point. Like, I think if you handed these two knives to somebody and asked them to pick which one was nicer, they would pick this one. It's seamless. It's
got a little bit of contour.
Yeah.
And it just feels better in my hand. And it's a little more nimble too as well, which I like. But still big enough to get the job done.
With the thumb studs and the flipper, you got tons of options. This is a good knife to have. I didn't really consider the fidget factor, which is important. I mean, we'd like to think it isn't, but it kind of it kind of is. I mean, I play with my knives at my desk all day long. If I'm not typing or clicking.
You should hear the knife clicking that happens in this building. It's kind of out of control.
Yeah.
But even this, like the closed up profile is so clean. It's not going to be, it's going to work if you're wearing, thinner clothes, thinner summer clothes, but it's not so small that when you're padded up for the winter, you're going to have a hard time getting to it. The lock may be a little, it's obviously a little less easy to actuate than the back lock over there, but this is not a bad one.
No, it's not as tricky as the Rhea. The Rhea has a real
You almost have to use your fingernail, your thumbnail to get in there.
Yeah, this one's real easy to use.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, fantastic knife. There are so many good knives.
There are so many good knives.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
The only thing it doesn't do for me is have a 3-inch blade, which sometimes I need that, unfortunately. But given the question, I'm gonna ignore that reality because this is not a reality situation anyway.
Yeah.
It's a fun one to think about. So there we go. There's our two guys right there. Hope that helps. All right. I think we're done here.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll just stand in the corner.
Yeah, get back over there.
See you next time.
Yep. Cool. We'll move on to the next.
Get
that. All right. Yeah, stay there. Shh. Don't make any noise. Next question. We're coming now to our lightning round. First question for the lightning round comes from Gideon's Stuff. Oh, wise DCA sage of knife knowledge. You're just trying to butter me up now, probably. Sage is a Spyderco, though.
It is.
Is this a biased question? Let's find out. Do you have any thoughts on the advantages and disadvantages of carrying a folding knife in a belt sheath for EDC? Sure thing. So one disadvantage we talked about earlier when we were talking about the Buck 110 and 112 is it's obviously at least especially if your shirt's not covering it, can be more obtrusive visually, and it can also be a little more obtrusive physically as well. I know this is true myself. If I carry my Leatherman Wave on my belt, it's a fairly thick thing, and you might knock into some stuff as you're moving around it. So something to keep in mind when you're doing that. Advantages, obviously, you leave more room in your pocket for other stuff, and the knife is protected a little more from scuffs and scrapes, both from the outside environment and from anything else that's in your pocket. So pretty straightforward, honestly, between the two. So hope that helps. Next question comes from Sean Lowkey. Hooray to Condor for bringing back 440C to the community. I think if CPM made some 440C, it would be a big hit. I'm not too big into metallurgy, so I don't know if you can even powder 440C, but it's just a thought. Yes, you could. I mean, you could pretty much powder any steel if it's worth it. But for 440C, it probably wouldn't be because they already kind of do in a way. 154 CM is kind of a slightly improved version of 440C, just kind of a little bit nicer spin-off. And you have a powder metallurgy version of 154 CM. You've got CPM 154. So offers all the same stainless benefits, very similar, if not slightly better edge retention, and you get more toughness as well out of it. I just don't know how worth it would be to have a CPM 440C series stainless, because it would be, probably wouldn't cost that much less to produce than CPM 154, and you could just have CPM 154. So there you go. Next question comes from Roger 3107. It says, I love my Spyderco Domino. I've carried it for 5 years. My question is, when should I send it back to Spyderco for servicing? I think as long as everything's working fine and you're able to keep it sharp enough to make yourself happy, there's no reason to send it in, honestly. You just be, gumming up their works for nothing in a way. If it's broken, if you can't get it to flip or open or lock up the way it should, absolutely send it in. Their warranty will take care of you. They'll get it fixed up, sent back to you. But if it's working, it's not like an engine. You don't need to take your car in for a tune-up. Well, you do need to take your car in for a tune-up occasionally, but your knife.
It's not like your knife needs a transmission flush.
No, I wouldn't think. I'm trying to think of a situation where it might, but I can't come up with anything. So yeah, if it's working fine, don't worry about it. Next question comes from J.M. Ramus. I stopped watching your videos, not because I didn't like them, but the closed captioning that they now put on my TV is so big that I can't see the knives. Who came up with such a great idea? On other channels, the closed caption is smaller and not interferes. Too bad, it was one of my favorite channels. So if closed captioning is coming up on your TV or something like that, that's not us. We do embed caption files in our videos, but they shouldn't come up automatically unless that's a setting on your display. So try turning it off. Yeah, I mean, we can't force those to come up, right?
Except the one next to your head right now.
Oh, I'm so worried, you guys. Okay, moving on to our most serious question of the day, and it's appropriate given what he just said. Drew Ryan asks, what made Thomas such a curmudgeon?
My best guess is it's probably close to 10 years working in restaurants and some unhealthy coping mechanisms.
He means alcohol. Don't do drugs. That's all the time we have for today's Knife AQ, ladies and gentlemen. If you want a chance, as always, to get your own questions featured, just leave them down in the comments below and I'll have fun combing through for the next episode. If you want to get your hands on any of these guys, we'll leave links in the description as always to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program so when you put your money down on one of these knives, you're going to earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center signing off. See you next time.